sounds pretty good. Let's check Mike. Check one. She the one. We still dealing with trauma from the transatlantic. That's generational damage. Some scars are hard to bandage. That weight is hard.
Welcome to Lunchtime Sessions, music, dance, and storytelling in the gardens here at OMCA. We're so glad to see you today, both here in person as well as online. This has been a new series we've been piloting since October, so every Thursday and Saturday here in the garden, free at noon. So we welcome you to come back out in December. We'll be taking a little break next week, but we'll be back in December, so you can check out our lineup online, museumca.org. And while you're here today, just a couple of things to point out. We have our Dia de los Muertos altar honoring COVID-19 victims that's located on the lower level here near the Natural Sciences Gallery. It's free. You don't need a ticket to participate in that this year. It will be up through the 28th, so today's a great day to check that out. And we welcome you to find us on social media and sign up for our e-newsletters to stay on top of everything we're doing here at the museum. Today, really excited to get into this as quickly as possible. So I will introduce our partnership with Nomadic Press, who's been helping to co-produce this series. This is the third in a series of 4 with them. So through publications, events, and active community participation, Nomadic Press collectively weaves together platforms for intentionally marginalized voices to take their rightful place within the world of the written and spoken word. For more information, you can visit nomadicpress.org, and they're based here in Oakland. And I have the distinct pleasure today to introduce our host. So give me just a moment to pull up bio. Nazila Jamison is a Bay Area-based performance poet, author, actor, vocalist, and MC. Her first book of poetry, Evolutionary Heart, was released on Nomadic Press in 2016. Her work can also be found in Culture Counts Magazine, 2021, The Racket Journal, issue 15, 2020, and others. In her spare time, Nazila enjoys writing horror screenplays and saving the day. She hosts the Nomadic Press virtual open mic every Friday on Zoom and gives the best hugs in the Bay Area. Facts. Here we go. Please welcome Nazila.
Hello. Welcome to Lunchtime Sessions. It's great to see all of you that are here. Please feel free to fill up these seats in the front if you can, if you do not require a table for eating your lunch, because all of the performers would love to see you. Anyway, welcome. It's a beautiful day here in Oakland at the Oakland Museum, and you're about to continue having a really beautiful day. So without further ado, first up is our musical guest. He is an Oakland native, a classically trained pianist, MC, composer, and band leader who uses conscious lyricism to bring a positive message to his unique blend of hip-hop, jazz, R&B, and soul. He has worked with the likes of Michael Franti, Goapele, Zion I, and The Coup, to name a few, and has toured as music director with Miss Lauryn Hill. He currently leads his own multi-genre blending band, the Kev Choice Ensemble, and has composed for the Oakland and San Francisco Symphonies. His latest piece, Movements with San Francisco Symphony, was released in September 2021. He currently teaches at Oakland School for the Arts and serves on Oakland's Cultural Affairs Commission and is the vice president of the board of the San Francisco chapter of the Recording Academy. Please be very excited to see Kev Choice.
Thank you. Give thanks to the universe for this beautiful day. How y'all feeling this afternoon? How y'all feeling? I'm gonna wave at y'all because I can see you. How y'all feeling? This is like the biggest intimate performance I've ever done, but I love it. I'm just thankful and grateful for the music, for community, for allowing the space today. When I come and perform as an Oakland resident who took his first piano lesson at a junior high school less than a mile away from here, who grew up in this community. Yeah, Westlake Junior High School. Give it up for Westlake. It just feels like performing in front of family. So I'm gonna keep this intimate, I'm gonna keep it raw. Me speaking from my heart of my expression. Like the bio said so beautifully, classically trained, but grew up in the hip hop generation and schooled by the jazz legends of our community and of the world. So I'm gonna just go into his own and have some fun. Is that all right with y'all? Thank you. thankful for it all. I'm thankful for it all. I'm thankful for it all. Hey. Let me talk to you for a second. I never took a minute off, not in my memory. I was born to be a boss, that's how it's meant to be. Glad I had a better option than judge trying to sentence me, somebody trying to shoot at me. Thank God for this music, yeah. Even living in my community, options seem like 2 or 3. Sell dope, play ball, or get a 9 to 5. Still struggle to survive, how I make it out alive. Thank God for this music, yeah. Even though they told me I'd never make it. You too complex for the mainstream, keep it basic. Couldn't be based on talent, I run circles around these dudes like car races. Thank God for heart and patience. Even though the success I tasted never made me complacent. Still remember that first Casio Big Tony got me for Christmas. Told me to take it, go make it. Thank God for his graces. As I speak these bars, no pages. In the studio 3 blocks from where Oscar Grant met Fate's kiss. His family tell me my gift will uplift and put smiles on their faces. Thank God for the gracious. I learned the definition of courageous is taking life struggles and embrace it. Success comes in stages. The greatest had trials and tribulations. I've been awakened, thank God for positive vibrations, yeah. Beyond horizons, heaven's waiting for every moment. I'm thankful for it all. For every storming, when tears was falling. No one knows me like you. You brought me through it all. And I'm thankful for it all. The ups and downs, the highs and lows of life. You know how that shit go. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it all. Knowing nothing's ever promised. Hey, I never took the easy route. I've been around this game a while. Notice when the smoke clear, some people got weeded out. Had to learn the difference between friends and associates. Folks use you for your talent when it's for their benefit. Thank God for forgiveness. Thank God for the vision. To see disappointment as opportunity, cousin, even family became distant. No judgment, I still love them. I rise, we rise, that's a promise. Thank God for a clear mind. Thank God for a good heart. Even on my worst days, sometimes I want to run away. How I lose my mom and my girl 3 months apart. Only 2 that held me down, they died. I felt like I was lost. Why God, it wasn't fair. But thank God for Anya. Thank God for Lil Kev. Knowing I had purpose, knowing I wasn't perfect, knowing I had a mission on this earth to fulfill. I stay working, really to avoid addressing hurt. I stay in the public eye, but really an introvert. Thank God for this gift, took me all over this earth. Coming from a city where plenty don't make it off their turf. Tables turned for me when I learned the science of the mind. Thank God it was revealed to me at the right and exact time. I was searching for a sign from the divine. All I had to do was look inside. Thank God for life. Beyond horizons, heaven's waiting for every moment. I'm thankful for it all. For every storming, when tears was falling. No one knows me like you. You brought me through it all. I'm thankful for it all. I'm thankful for it all. Give thanks. Thank you.
Kev Choice, y'all, one more time. So, just want to let you know over there in the lovely shady corner that is shady up here too, if you want to come up here. We like y'all. It's COVID safe. You can space out. It's just a suggestion, people. All right, y'all. So, continuing on what is your lovely Saturday afternoon. So, our first author coming to the mic is a good friend of mine. She teaches creative writing at UC Berkeley. Kensington Books publishes her award-winning Justice Hustlers feminist heist series. In 2020, they published her first standalone novel, A Spy in the Struggle, about FBI infiltration of an African-American organization fighting for climate justice and Black lives. Her next adult book is Queen of Urban Prophecy, which she will read from today. Finally, her Justice Hustlers series has been optioned for television, and she is currently working on the pilot. Find her at hername.com. Please welcome Aya Deleong.
Thank you. And I just have to say thank you so much to Kev Choice. I feel like my life would be so transformed if every time I got on stage, I was like blessed with that kind of healing meditation moment beforehand. Thank you. That was so beautiful. I'm about to read from this new book, comes out next month, Queen of Urban Prophecy. And it's about a young woman who is like a hot girl MC, and she's blowing up. And she has a bonus track on her album that deals with police violence. Most of her work is about love and romance and living that hot girl life. But this one track that she does is about a young Black woman on her way home from high school, and she's shot and killed by a white police officer. And then a young Black woman with the same name gets shot and killed by police under similar circumstances. And it puts her in the spotlight, and people are calling her a prophet, and others are saying, no, police violence is just so widespread that this was going to happen eventually. And this is a story about her as she goes out on tour, unexpectedly having to deal with becoming really an accidental activist. And so this is a scene between her and her DJ. She's in New Orleans, and she goes to the Hurricane Katrina Memorial Museum. And so one thing that she's trying to do in dealing with this kind of accidental activism is dealing with both activism around police violence and around the climate crisis. So this is when her bus tour is in New Orleans. 2 days later, Desa visited the Hurricane Katrina Memorial. She stayed largely dry-eyed, but found herself stumbling through sound check. They were doing a bounce remix of Desa Desia. Shout out to Big Frida, Damian shouted from the DJ booth. That was Desa's cue to come in, but she was late. Above her head, the Jumbotron monitor showed a glamorous photo of the queen of bounce, Big Frida, the gender-bending diva with a bone-straight black weave and a tiara. I'm sorry, Desa said after missing the cue. Let me try that again. After sound check, she and her DJ walked back to her dressing room. The caterers had set out Chinese food. The two of them fixed plates for themselves on the way. I don't know, Desa said. One of the few times I saw my mama cry was about Hurricane Katrina when I was little. I know what you mean, Damian nodded. Hurricane Maria hit right around my birthday. I was out drinking that night. I woke up the next day to find the homeland of Puerto Rico had been trashed. My mom's was crying hard. My dad was trying not to cry, but he couldn't hold it in. When I was in the museum, I just felt so helpless, she said. It was so big. These natural disasters. He cut her off. There's nothing natural about this, he said. Katrina, Maria, Harvey, they're all part of the climate crisis. And the way the U.S. responds, who's considered disposable, that's all man-made too. Made right here in the USA. I just wish I had the funds to make a difference, she said. You already have what you need to make a difference, Damian said. Tonight, you're going to be on stage talking to 10,000 people. Right now, your platform is where you can have an impact. But I don't have a song about hurricanes or New Orleans, she said, and the show starts in a couple hours. We don't have a song yet, he said. What? She said, we're supposed to come up with a whole new song in 2 hours? It takes me a month to come up with a good hook. No, Damian said, we could remix a song and we could maybe change the lyrics to the hook a little. Which song? Much Too Much. Damian picked a song from deep in the album. It hadn't been released as a single and they hadn't really planned to. But the moment he said it, her eyes flew open. The hook was, I come pounding like a hurricane. What if she changed it? What if they adapted it? They compound you like a hurricane. 400 years later, my people still in chains. These storms make our condition plain. Yes, mommy, Damian said. That's what I'm talking about. The two of them gathered the equipment they needed. He worked with his headphones and laptop while Desa paced around the room with a pen and a notebook. In Puerto Rico, we grew sugarcane. Louisiana, we grew the same. Stripped us naked when the storms came. Can't let the flood put out this freedom flame. This time, when Desa took the stage, she wasn't nervous. She had been overwhelmed with emotion since the museum. She ignored the advice of her vocal coach. She let it all out. The rage, the grief. They closed with that song. Damian had mixed in snippets of Mos Def's Dollar Day, particularly the Katrina clap sample. He had also mixed in a West Coast Puerto Rican MC Desa had never heard of, Rico Pabon. The track started with a list of devastations to the island of Puerto Rico, and then Pabon said, and I ain't even talking about the hurricane. Line by line, Damian's track was in conversation with Desa's rap. They built a clear picture of colonial brutality against Puerto Rico, of racist violence against black communities in the U.S. The music pounded like a hurricane, and Desa howled like the wind. It brought the house down. A freelance reporter was in the audience, and he would later write for The Atlantic. Around me, members of the audience were screaming and crying. This pop music concert had suddenly become a sort of public healing, touching wounds the audience hadn't realized they had, or thought they had already healed under the scars. But Desa's vocals and the DJ's track tore open the wounds and cleansed them. The beats reset the broken bones. By the end of the concert, it felt less like a rap show and more like a tent revival. The dance as critical release of all the pent-up pain. After the show, Desa realized she wasn't a prophet. She could never be. But now that people had some higher expectations of her, she felt like there was an occasion to rise to. She could use her lyrical skills for more than just trying to get put on. She could use her power for healing, to lift people up. After the concert, rhymes began to pour out of her. She had been blocked for so long. She grabbed some paper and a pen from her road manager and rushed to her dressing room to write them down before they slipped out of her mind. She vowed to start carrying her battered notebook around again, just like when she was an aspiring rapper. Black girl, so much to say. Thank you.
Give it up for Aya again. So, you know there's youth. Did you know that? Youth exist. It's an amazing thing. And we at Nomadic Press and also at the Oakland Museum. See, there's a youth excited right now. And also the Oakland Museum, we have a program called Pass the Mic, where we are training the youth to do what I'm doing, which is keep y'all engaged and entertained on a Saturday afternoon. So I would like to introduce to you our intern for this season of Lunchtime Session. and it is Angie Richards. And she is going to introduce our next reader.
I'm introducing Ingrid Rojas. Contreras is the author of The Drunken Tree, Doubleday 2018, a silver medal winner in first fiction from the California Book Awards and a New York Times editor choice. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times Magazine, The Cut, The Believer, and elsewhere. A new work of nonfiction, a family memoir about her grandfather, a curandera from Colombia who said it had the power to move clouds, is coming from Doubleday in 2022. Explore more of her work at ingridrojascontreras.com. Thank you.
Thank you. That was such a lovely introduction. I'm going to read to you from my novel, Fruit of the Drunken Tree. And I chose a little bit of a tense moment because I thought that would go very well with lunch if you're having lunch. Starting with timer. Okay. This is a story that happens in Bogota in the 90s. All day we waited for Papa. Mama yelled he was on his way, stop asking. I turned on the television. Everything on the television was about Pablo Escobar. There was a banner of text running at the bottom of the screen. Breaking news, the biggest manhunt in history. A reporter was saying Pablo Escobar had escaped and that he had not been in a high-security prison as the government wanted the country to believe, but he had been living in a high-security mansion. He's free? He can come to Bogota? Chula, hold on a minute. I'm trying to listen, Mama said. Every channel on the television was showing specials. Reporters stood inside the high-security prison, showing off the water beds, jacuzzis, fine carpets, marble tiles, the sauna, the bar with a discotheque, the telescopes, radio equipment, and so many weapons, grenades, machine guns, pistols, machetes. He had been running the cartels from prison. Finally, we found a channel that was talking about the details of the escape. There was an animated map of the prison. The prison was nested in the hilly mountainside. Little army men swept to surround the building. The reporter said that since the prison guards were all Pablo Escobar's men, the escape was easy. They helped capture a few hostages and used them to hold the Colombian army at bay. The reporter said Pablo Escobar and his men were thought to have escaped at the hour of the fog. That's because they slipped unseen past the battalions surrounding the prison. And since up in the hills a heap of women's clothes was later discovered, it was thought that Pablo Escobar and his men went out into the mountains in disguise, a row of ladies walking into the clouds. When it was dusk, Mama said Papa was late because of traffic. Then she said maybe there had been a landslide, which happened sometimes on the winding cliff roads leading back into the city, small pebbles on rocks loosening with rain but collapsing only later, when it was sunny, filling the roads with the mountainside. I thought of car accidents, hospitals, women in distress, hitchhikers. Then Cassandra asked, what did he say exactly when you talked to him, Mama? Mama shrugged. He said he was on his way. He was going to get his bag and drive home. The television droned on in the background. Pablo Escobar this, Pablo Escobar that. I huddled with Mama on the couch. Night fell. It began to rain again. The drum of rain banged on our roof and windows, and the howling wind crept through the bottom of the front door. I was falling asleep when Mama rose to her feet and went about the house, moving things from one table to another. Her bathrobe ballooned about her as she bent and picked things up from the floor. She dropped the dictionary into a cabinet drawer and said, his car probably broke down on the highway. Mama scrubbed her face with her hands. For the first time, I noticed the color. Her forehead was white, but her cheekbones and overlip glistened in a sickly green. I imagined Papa bursting through the front windshield of his car in an accident. I averted my eyes, but the image was there. The tips of my ears tingled. Go to sleep, Mama said. I'll wake you when your father comes. I want to wait, Mama. I'm sure he's fine. Go and I'll wake you. I went to the attic and crawled into bed next to my sister Cassandra, the patter of rain over the world of our dreams. The next day, downstairs, Mama was smoking in the living room, and the television was emitting a loud, continuous beep, showing a static image of color bars. Mama, Cassandra was saying, shaking her shoulder, Mama, did Papa come? Mama narrowed her eyes until they closed. She sucked her cigarette, swallowing the smoke, then it came forked out of her nostrils. Cassandra shook her again. Her eyes broke open. What is it? Did Papa call? What time is it? It's 7. She sat up and put out her cigarette in the ashtray. She picked up the telephone and then held it in her hand. The telephone button slated fluorescent green, and the dim sound of the dial tone filled the room. Mama, why don't you dial? I'm thinking. Mama, dial. What are you waiting for? But the color drained from her. She was looking into the distance as she replaced the receiver. Then she was on her feet, braiding her fingers at the nape of her head, and then she was sitting against the wall, hiding her face between her knees. It will be okay, your papa is okay, she called after a while. Her voice built a new anxiety in me. The police in Medellin found a Pablo Escobar hideout. The reporter was standing fully dressed in the shower, showing how a young cop, who for no reason wondered whether the apartment bought with laundered money had running water, had turned the shower knob. What happened next was that the shower wall swung out like a door, and there, below a few steps, was a small apartment. The reporter motioned for the cameras to come in. He flicked on a switch. Everything was in disarray. There was a bed. Here, you may imagine, the subject of the biggest manhunt in history peacefully slept while the police searched the apartment. The reporter lifted a coffee cup left on the nightstand. When police first entered, this coffee was still warm. The room was empty and the police left to search the vicinity. But little did they know, the reporter said, walking to a wall where he pulled on a cord. There was another hideout within the hideout. A small door swung out from the wall and revealed a tight crawl space. Pablo Escobar probably sat here, literally a hairbreadth away from the authorities, biding his time to sneak away. The telephone rang all day, but Mama was holed up in her bedroom with her door shut, so I stayed with the television. At night, Mama turned into a black widow. Her bed was stripped, and the pillows and blankets on the floor. I found her sitting on the mattress. The firelight of the candle clasped between her thighs threw a satin sheen on her hair, and her contorted fingers radiated orange shadows. Her cheekbones and forehead glistened, but her eyes hung back. She was braiding the air with her fingers, mumbling prayers. When I touched her, her body crumbled under my fingers as if it were ash. She curved by the candle, crying. Bowled over, she rocked on her thighs and howled. It was a pained, low, guttural howl. It washed through my entire body. Everything was terrible. I howled as well. My eyes sprang with tears and my sight doubled. Mama, with 4 hands, covering her face, saying, "What are we going to do, Chula? What in the world are we going to do?" Thank you.
Ingrid Rojas Contreras. So now here's the treat part, right? Well, that was a treat. That has all been a treat. But this is the real treat because often we see authors read their work and we read their work in their books, but rarely do we get to see them discuss their work. And so you're really excited for that, and so am I. So without further ado, here's a conversation. Please welcome back Aya and Ingrid.
Hey. Oh, Ingrid, I love that. It's just beautiful to hear you read it.
Thank you.
And and one of the things that I wanted, we had talked a little bit ahead of time, is just about this question of climate. Like, I'm sort of obsessively writing about the climate crisis, fitting it in, like, this is a book about hip hop. Like, it could have just been about hip hop and police violence, but I, really wanted to figure out how to get climate in there. And I think that there are also ways that climate is affecting us as people of color, that we're responding to it, and that may not even be on the radar. Can you say a little bit about how that, shows up in our world, in your world, and in your work?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I loved your reading, and it was such a pleasure to be watching it from this chair so close. I just love your language as well. I was telling Aya a little bit when we were standing conversing. There's some climate change things in my novel, and I think that the climate change thing has been happening for a while, and then maybe it doesn't register as that. But there was a period of time in Colombia, and this is in the book, also in the 90s, where the droughts were so bad that all of the electricity would get cut off, and then we didn't have water either. So it created this, environment of emergency, because we had all of this violence, right? Like from the drug traffic, from the paramilitaries, and from the guerrillas, and then government corruption, and then this like climate crisis that was happening. And I borrowed a lot from my memory of that time. But I remember that the hours of water happened at like from midnight to like 4 a.m. And then from something like 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And everywhere else we didn't have water or electricity. And then during those hours, I just remember, like, I would already be sleeping, but I would hear my mom and my dad walking down the halls, turning all of the faucets in the house to try to collect water for the day. And it all felt so precarious, right? Like there was one day where we didn't get the electricity or the water, and then suddenly we had no water. And it was a very terrifying moment. But I put that in the book, I think, because I was just also thinking about, my novel it's told from the point of view of a young person, and I was just thinking of all of the ways in which when the government doesn't do their job correctly, it creates this helplessness that is also kind of what it's like to be a young person. What about, how does it show up? How else, other than what we heard, how else does it show up in this one?
Well, it's interesting, talking about drought. Like we have, one of the things that's interesting as an opportunity with her touring, she's touring across the country and she's seeing different ways that the climate crisis is affecting different areas. So she goes through New Orleans and, I remember when Katrina hit, I thought that it was part of the ongoing racial crisis in the United States. And it is, and it was. We recently celebrated, or really commemorated, right? Because there's nothing to celebrate. We commemorated the 15-year anniversary, and actually Hurricane Ida hit on that day, which was just so sort of shocking. But so we had that commemoration, and at the time, I just thought about it as a crisis of racism intersecting with natural disasters, but actually the climate crisis is also a crisis created by racism, by the same forces that of racism and colonization, these extractive industries, the constant destabilizing of different governments, particularly in Latin America. And when we think about, what's been happening at the border more recently with Haiti and, previously with other folks coming seeking asylum, especially from Central America, a lot of these are climate refugees if we take into account the effect of climate crisis on storms, on droughts, on making conditions in so many parts of the global South unlivable, right? And people, have to get away, have to try and find another way to live. So, again, these racial crises, immigration crises, a lot of times really do loop back to the climate crisis. And I'll say, by way of transitioning into the next question that I have for you, in lockdown, every writer that I know has their own response to lockdown. And mine is when I'm scared and anxious, I write. So I just like wrote, between the anxiety about the pandemic, the anxiety about the 2020 election, the anxiety about the climate crisis. I just sort of churned out all these novels. And have a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple of years because I was just kind of like, that was how I dealt with anxiety, in part because I don't know about you, but for me as a fiction writer, like the world of my fiction, I have so much control. And in the world outside of my fiction, right, things felt so out of control. So I'll say a little bit more about specifics, but I'm really excited to hear that you have a new book coming out in 2022. And can you say a little bit more about that and talk about what you have coming up? And what you're working on now.
Yeah, I also react to anxiety that way, where I want to create things, and it feels good to create things. I'm also a person who will pick up crafts and then start to do a craft just to have something to complete. Without knowing what I'm doing at all, which means, I'm getting a little bit off topic from your question. I was just thinking about all of the things that I did during the pandemic. I got a kitten. It was very cute. I did a lot of writing as well. And I wrote a lot of the book that's coming out soon, which is called The Man Who Could Move Clouds. And it's about my grandfather and he came from like a lineage of curanderos, which are like mestizo medicine men. And then he was supposed to teach one of his sons, and then he felt like all of them were unworthy. All of them were just not gonna. And so the only person that he thought could do it was my mother. And then for some reason in this lineage of curanderos, like the women can't learn, which, okay. But then she fell down an empty well, and it's like a fairy tale. And she lost her memory, and she went into a coma. When she came back to and like her memory returned, which was like eight months later, she could see and hear ghosts. And so then the family was like, oh yeah, the secrets kind of like, or the lineage of this came to her. I had an accident in Chicago where I was biking. Someone opened their car door. I crashed into it. I lost my memory too. And so then my family was super excited about this because they were like, this is so exciting. But I did it. Nothing happened. And then they were very disappointed very quickly because I couldn't, I'm not like her. So that's kind of like all of what inspired the book and what some of the stories that are told are her amnesia, my amnesia. There's a lot of stuff for healing. She had like a psychic business when I was growing up in the attic of our house. So I just kind of grew up with her kind of treating people in the same way that she grew up with her grandfather, and people coming in with different kind of like ailments and different problems and like heartbreak that he would heal. So it's kind of like 3 generations. And it was during pandemic, it felt like such a beautiful kind of place to escape to. And I think that a lot of fiction writers, I don't know about other creatives, but, writers, period, to create a world and then disappear into it. And for me personally, writing during the pandemic I felt like there was also like a little bit of hope, which was very nice. Like if I can sit down to write, it means that I believe in a world where the story will come out eventually, or where I will be able to share this with somebody. And then that, I just kind of like hung on to that, and then just finished the book. But what did you work on, and what did you have coming.
First of all, I just have to say that is an incredible story. I'm really looking forward to it. I've also been doored on my bicycle, but no amnesia, no ghosts.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Man, I just be careful. All the bike riders, wear your helmets. So it's interesting that what you were saying, that it really, between the climate crisis and the different crises around fascism and what feels like, capitalism really kind of struggling, it does feel really different now to write a book and think 3 years from now, like there will, everything will still be in place for this, to keep moving forward. It's different than it was, say, 10 years ago, just in terms of our expectations of like, what is the world, and what will it be shortly from now. And I'm really actually very hopeful in a lot of ways about the climate crisis, because we have all the solutions we need. It's just a question of having a movement to push our leaders, who are unfortunately oftentimes beholden to these greedy corporate interests, to push them to do the will of the people, right? So that's, to me, that's the fight. We got the solutions. We've got, people who want change vastly outnumber the small group of people who are benefiting, but it's just about building the movements and putting on that pressure. But it's interesting. So I have a book or it's not even really a book. I have a novel that was just published that felt too urgent for the publishing industry, because it was about the Green New Deal, right? And like, we're in this time politically in the first year of the Biden administration. I started writing it in January. It's a young adult thriller, and it's about two undocumented Dominican teenagers who uncover a kidnapping plot to stop the Green New Deal. And I was just like, this has to come out in 2021, which is nuts. Like, if a book is going to be published, it's like 18 months to 2 years, and things are getting delayed because of the pandemic and supply chain, all these things. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get this serialized somehow. So I went around and eventually got Orion magazine excited about it. And so the last of 6 installments just came out, and it's called The Mystery Woman in Room 3.
That's all. And so like all of it was published in Orion.
All of it was published online on Orion. Yeah. So in no paywall.
Orion magazine is very cool. Environmental literary magazine, by the way. It's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, and they, they usually do stuff that's more literary. This is definitely a young adult thriller, but I wanted it to just be available, because I feel like I'm writing propaganda, and my propaganda hook is like, the climate crisis, we can solve it. We need to fight, and particularly like people of color, like, this is our issue. Let's get in there and fight. So, so that just, the final 6th installment just came out on Thursday of this week. So that's out now, and anybody can go read it. And, I'm getting some emails from high school teachers who want to use it, which is exciting.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm starting to do more YA. I have another young adult novel coming out next year called Undercover Latina, and it's about a Latina spy. And so it's this sort of fictional organization of people of color who, like, internationally are kind of watchdogging issues around racism. And her mission, she's 14, it's her first solo mission, and she's picked because she has really kind of curly, kinky hair, but she's really light-skinned. And so they need her to press her hair and pass for white to stop a white nationalist terrorist to befriend his estranged son. So there's it's like fun, and there's all this sort of like drama, but the serious part is, of course, about race and racism, but then she's homeschooled, and so she's in high school for the first time. So I feel like that's, with the YA, that's very much my thing, right? Like, I like this sort of tension between kind of fun, quirky, and then also the really heavy political stuff. But I feel like in order to be hopeful, because, like you're talking about being hopeful, in order to be hopeful, it really requires sort of that balance.
I was just thinking about how the YA rhythm is very fast, right? My first novel took me 7 years to write. And I wrote my... It's so fast.
Yeah, but part of it is, my first novel also took me like 8 years to write. Okay. So,
She's just trying to make me feel better.
No, it's real.
What is your process like? How do you write?
Well, I am a super fan of the Nanowrimo method, right? So, like, I'll write a whole horrible first draft in like a month, or a couple of months. And the thing that's become so great, the more you do the NaNoWriMo thing, the more you really. Oh, by the way, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. We're in it now. So November of every year, you have people trying to write a novel in a month, and of course, it's going to be terrible because you don't, you're doing it in a month, and it's just about getting the word count every day. And the thing that's been so great is, they're like quantity, not quality, no plot, no problem. It's fine for it just to be terrible. And so the thing that's become so great is like, I really am excited about how bad it is now. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Yay, I did it, because I've gone through the process enough times that it's like, oh, that horrible first draft became a like, okay, second draft that became like, oh, okay, getting better, third draft, and eventually by like the fifth and sixth draft, I liked it, right? And then I was like, this is great. So it's been really good to be able to write those initial drafts with no judgment, and that's been critical. But also, language-wise, like I'm writing very, there are good characters, but there's a lot of plot driving it. And when you're trying to find like that precision of language in literary fiction, it's slower. Like my sentences are like driving us forward. So I feel like that's been really important to me, both the NaNoWriMo method and also, my style is very like, these are thrillers. It's like, get it on the page, the action, the action.
I love that. My process is probably just very much the opposite of that. But I like, one of the things that I really like to do, and maybe this is why I take a longer time, is when I was working on this novel, and then I kind of kept this process for everything. I was working as a interpreter from Spanish to English, and that was my day job, and I really liked the way that just felt on my brain. And sometimes I would notice myself do an interpretation that was a little bit like weird. And so when I was writing the book, I became interested in doing what I would think of as a bad translation. So for example, even the title, like Fruit of the Drunken Tree, is a transliteration from the Spanish. This is what we call the tree in Spanish, which is fruta del borrachero is what we call that flower. And I could have done a good translation and just called it like the fruit of the datura tree, because that's what it's called here. But it's almost more interesting to me to figure out what is being lost in the language and then do a bad translation where I'm just like keeping it. But for that reason, I think in Spanish, I do an internal translation and then type it in English. So it's this whole, brain process that takes place.
But that makes so much sense, right? Because you want to let your mind move expansively between two languages. And it's like, that's what they say when young people are learning more than one language, that it takes them longer to master both, but that once they have, like just the expansiveness of having that point of reference from two languages means that mentally there's just more room. So it makes so much sense. And that's wonderful as a process.
And it's, I find a lot of poetry in just the way that languages work. Like even the sayings that we have in English and in Spanish, I find them to be very poetic. When you're an outsider to a saying, you just kind of get like the pure metaphor because it makes no sense to you at all. So I really enjoy kind of being in the middle between those two languages. But I definitely look at every sentence and I definitely kind of have 10 dictionaries open and I'm like, which is the right word for this? And I think that the interesting thing is that there's some words that are more exact in English, and then there's some words that are very exact in Spanish. And then I'm like, what do I do?
Well, I'm wondering, are you using that process on whatever you're working on now? And are you willing to share what it is you're working on now?
I just finished with with the editing of the memoir. So that's very new. I'm working on. I was writing about like a craft essay, writing trauma, and then I'm working on an article that I asked a bunch of different writers if they have a working metaphor for writing a novel, and I got all kinds of interesting answers. Mine is I think of writing a novel as going like diving, where you're like holding your breath and you're just going like to as far as you can, and trying to find like some kind of treasure. So for me, like that, the metaphor is like I need to have focus and concentrate enough so that I can like hold my breath and get to the good stuff. Do you have a metaphor? Maybe I'll like ask you and include you in the.
I know, right? I feel like my metaphor is like running track, and I feel like I'm running around. I'm like running around, and I'm like, okay, let me finish this novel because I have so many in my mind. I feel like I'm running. I'm like, okay, I want to finish this one, and then I want to jump into the next one. So it's definitely like a fast moving. It would be running or hurdling or something.
Yeah, I like this track one.
And what was it I wanted to ask? Oh, I just wanted to say that, in terms of memoir, it's interesting. I've just started, I'm in the first draft of a memoir, and I feel like this one's going to take forever because memoir is so different, right? You know, you can't rush through it in the same way that you can a thriller, and you have to really kind of digest different experiences and make the different connections. But one of the things, this particular memoir is about the connection for me between food and body image and kind of the politics of food, but also connecting that in my own experience to U.S. foreign and domestic policy. Because when I was little, people were coming back from the Vietnam War, and they brought certain parasites with them, and we were impacted. And then and then they didn't really know what to do. Like when, as we know from the pandemic, like what happens when a disease hits a group of people who have never encountered it before. And so they gave me a lot of crazy medicines to try and, heal me. And eventually they figured it out. But by then my digestive tract was really devastated. So just thinking about, the micro, right? Like, what am I eating? The individual, food, body image, being a brown woman growing up, but also the macro, like, how does U.S. foreign policy come back to your gut, right? So that's,
I love that.
I'm working on that now.
I know they want us to wrap up, but I met someone who gives visa to foods. Like his job is at the airport, and he decides whether a food can get a visa to pass or not. I'll tell you about it later.
That's wild.
It was so lovely to talk to you.
Oh my God, so good to hear you. So good to talk to you. Thank you so much to the Oakland Museum. Thank you to our lovely and fabulous hosts. Thank you to Kev Choice bringing the music. And and I just have to say, my family is super interested in ghosts, etc. So I can't wait to tell them about your upcoming memoir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you give a louder round of applause for Aya Deleong and Ingrid Rojas Contreras? Okay. Take it away, Angie.
And it's my pleasure to introduce Oakland's own Kev Choice.
Thank you both for your inspiring words, and looking forward to reading both of your books and future books, and also just reading books in general. It just really inspired me to just read, and also as an MC, get more deeper into the art of writing and processing in that manner and creating and expressing in that way. So thank you for your inspirational words today. We can give them another thanks. That's not often that you get to hear the process, the unique, perspectives. So I'm really blessed today. I'm feeling just free. Yesterday was such a heavy day for a lot of us, Number one, it's just been a lot in our community that has been heavy for us. It's a lot in our world. So being able to express in this manner on the instrument to me is healing, is therapy, and hopefully it could be the same for you, whatever you may be processing. I know justice is still something that we're fighting for every day in so many different ways. I know this system has so many different inequalities and deficiencies, and in my eyes, it really just needs to be done with and turned over and created into a whole new system. And really that's our everyday work as artists, is to express ways that we can change this system, that we can create a new system that works for everyone. Because right now the way that it's designed is not working equally and justly for all of us. So let's continue to work in that path. I take the tradition of hip hop and bring it into music. You know, I might just flip between styles, between songs. So just ride with me. Is that all right with y'all? Can y'all clap your hands with me? Can you clap your hands with me? I need to feel y'all energy. Everybody out here in the vicinity. If you're sitting down or you in them trees, I need to feel you rocking with me. And if you're feeling all right, let me hear you say, oh yeah. Come on, hey yo. I know one day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for. Just what we've been fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take real love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. Yo, did you realize you're beautiful and important? And you deserve the best that life has to present. Every moment's intense, hard enough paying this rent. Trying to stay above cement and not doing a stint. Look at the percent of my brothers that sent to serve time. Around the world, the governments is doing worse crimes. They setting traps to catch felons for a third time. No jobs, no justice, what's the frame of mind? Nothing to lose, ain't afraid to die. Never shown our worth or how to express the hurt inside. And every homicide I see reported feel like a portion of myself departed. Could it have been avoided? It's more guns out here than countries that it's wars in. Need conflict resolution in these school courses. I'm tired of selling for the short end, but one candle can defy the darkness. Now come on. I know one day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for. Hey, yo, just what we've been fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take Oakland love from us. It's deeper than they know. Hey, yo, yes, it's deeper than they know. They got me falling now. Keep clapping your hands and know that love is the answer. And to stay on the world, spread it around the world. Oakland around the world. 510-94610. Come on. Let me take him to church. Double clap. We gon' make it. We gon' have just what we're fighting for. Just what we've been fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take real love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. Let me hear you say love. And say love. And say love. And say love. Let me hear you say justice. Let me say justice. And then you say peace. You say peace. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Kev Choice, y'all. Some more. Some more. And give it up for everyone on this stage. On behalf of Nomadic Press, I would like to thank all of our performers, Kev Choice, and our authors, Deleong and Ingrid Rojas Contreras. And I would like to thank the Oakland Museum for having us. And you for being here and having this fabulous afternoon with us. My name is Nazila. I'm going to be back next Saturday, too. And now here's Emily Eklund again.
Thank you, Naz. Thank you one more time to all of our performers and authors that are here on stage with us. I just thank you, Kev, for your words, too. it's really incredible to be here with you all. And we created this series as a way to bring audiences and performers together in kind of a more intimate experience. And it really is rare to be able to hear these conversations and to get to see up close the sort of the process and the performers. So really glad to have you here today. And also just thank you for being part of the community that we all want to see here in Oakland. That's why we're here. Art does that. Art brings us together. And so really grateful to have you all either at home watching us or here live in the audience. We're actually taking a little bit of a break next week, but we will be back in December, Thursdays and Saturdays at noon. December 2nd, Thursday, will be Kristen Damrow and company, so you'll get to see dance here in the garden. And then Saturday, we'll be back with Nomadic Press, the fourth of our series with them. So all of that will be listed on our website, museumca.org. You can follow us on Instagram for updates as well. And you may see one of our fabulous staff members walking around with a clipboard. She has a couple questions to be able to ask you. We really appreciate your time in taking those surveys. It does help us to bring you what you want to see here at the museum and to continue these kinds of programs. So we'll be back in December and then hopefully into the new year as well. So keep an eye out for all of that. And thank you so much. One more round of applause for our performers and for you all for being here with us today. We'll see you soon.